So good afternoon. Another quick tour of Mossy's mini allotment. It's been just over 2 weeks since I did an update on the 1st of June, and I think we probably had the hottest weather this year and probably the wettest weather this year in that 2 weeks, so it's had an interesting effect on the plot. So big bed 1, it's pretty much finished now, everything is in. Major loss that I did have since the last video was my dwarf broad beans. They got scorched in the tent on one of the hot days, so there was 5 of them. I did transplant them in, but 3 of them pretty much were gone, and the last 2 are still in, but they might still go. Give them a try. So I'll just zoom in now. Apologies if it's a bit shaky, but I'll give you an idea as I get a bit closer. The pine berry again has some fruit on it. Looks totally different. So anybody who has grown them this year, maybe I've nothing to compare it to, let me know if this is the way it should look, or does this one look good. Maybe Claire might let me know how hers are doing. Dropping down then, this is where the tent was, tent 1. And what I've added here is courgette. So there's just round courgette and normal courgette in pots. That was the night stock. Put it in pretty late, lost most of the seeds, but I'm going to just leave those last few to come through. Right here it's meant to be nice if it does take on. Looking down the side then, we have got the herbs. Added a mint plant from B&Q. I always go to the sort of the cheap stock stand B&Q. That was 50 cents. So they put in anything that's damaged or coming to the end of its time, so you can always get a good deal there. Added some sunflowers. So again, they're just in tall pots. So we'll see. Hopefully they'll add a bit of colour. Tumbling Tom, doing okay. That was in the greenhouse last video. That's since gone into the hanging basket, and it has actually started to flower, and you can see through there some small tomatoes on already. So again, it's really slightly cold for it, but we'll give it a shot. Added another small feature then since last time, was this mini hanger baskets. Everything is small in this garden, so I just put one begonia. They were meant to be trailing begonias. I think this one is upright. It was really mixed up on the stand. That one down the back there is trailing. So again, just to put a bit of colour in. Brackets were actually from the bathroom. They were from a shelf, so recycled them. So I thought they fitted in well. Give the effect of hanging basket. These are sugar snap. A few weeds around the end. So the plants weren't the best when I put them in. They're taking their time, taking off, but they are starting to grab on. So again, on the canes. Carrots. So using these pots for the carrots. I'll cut through to another small video I did just to show you what varieties I've done. But essentially this is a compost soil mix, sieved, hand sieved, and I've just put them in organised rows so I can find them. Fairly tight, but as you can see in this case, they're starting to fly through. Good thing about these are, as regards carrot root fly, I can actually bring these in either into the shed or into the house, tin them out, leave them in there for a few hours, and then put them back out. So there's one good advantage of doing the buckets are in actual pots. Climate French bean beside it. It's looking, I think, very yellow. I don't think it's meant to be that colour. As the new growth comes through, it is a bit greener. So if anyone can recommend what's going on there, it was sort of that colour when I went in. It hasn't really changed, but it is growing, and they are grabbing on by their own accord. So I think I'll just leave it. But again, if anyone has anything to recommend, please let me know. Moving on to the bed then. So we've added in, as I say, everything. So moving from front to back, we've actually got the outdoor cucumber. Those 2 in the middle, they replaced the 3 dwarf French beans that died, or broad beans, sorry. And an example of the broad bean that is surviving. I think the bottom you can see where it was very yellow, that's where it was scorched. But the new growth is looking good, and there's a couple of flowers on it, so I'm going to give them a shot and leave them there. And then dwarf French bean in the back. Small space, although I will get something in there. I'm not sure. I have some extra beetroot and things coming through on seeds, so I'll hold on to that just in case you can use it. I also have some Swiss chard plants which I can add in there as well. A row of beetroot, they were from seeds in the tent, so they've gone in. Spring onions, which are there from the start, are bulking up, and the onions are, as I was explaining in the last update, they did get very leggy. They start falling over, so I just put in a couple of canes with some twine on it just to try and hold them up. One is bolted already. I have a feeling they're all going to bolt. Not to worry, we'll leave them and see how they get on. Worst case, I can take them out and put something in that might come on later on. So that's big bed 1. As I said, everything has only really gone in apart from the onions, so I'd like to hope that you see that taken off over the next few weeks. I'll cut through now into just give an update on the carrots, what I think of it, and then I'll move on to big bed 2. So the variety of carrots I'm going to do this year, I'm doing 3 in little troughs, which I'll show you in a minute. First one, purple haze, done this the last couple of years, really cool. Purple on the outside, orange in the centre. Jamie Oliver range, just said I'd try that this year. The other 2 then are F1 Flyaway, and then the other ones are Red Samurai. And I thought this was a really good idea. Little scan code on the envelope, and all you do is just scan that with your phone. It brings you straight to the website with the details. It's probably some more people or more companies don't do it. So I'll crack on. So the second big bed then, from the back, pak choy, some calabrese, and the turnips, and then the last bit of space still to be filled, and then the tomatoes on the front. I'll cut through and just go through a bit closer, give you an idea of what's going on there. So working from front and back. So these are the tomatoes in the grow bag. So they're alive and they're growing, so we'll see. It's taken on probably double their size since the last update. And again, as you can see, we have got some flowers. So it's all positive, just keeping them watered in the small pots. And obviously feeding them then as we go. Working around here, I'm going to put the sprouts in there. So I have the bed ready, I'll just put some chicken compost on top and mix that in. That's just an example of one of the sprout plants that I have. Again, going from seed. And the turnips, they're flying. They were really small and leggy and hanging over when they went in, but they've really taken hold. Really pushed them in tight like the rest of the brassicas. Calabrese beside it. Again, doing pretty well. I was going to plan and compare this bed to the back bed, and I think it's holding its own in that competition. Purple cauliflower, doing well. And then that pak choy which went in right at the start, that's fine. Lovely colour. Sorry for the jumping around. And what I've done here is, because they were starting to hang over, sorry for the shaking, I just put in a small little frame. I think I'll have to do this with all the calabrese and their brassicas, so the frame just holds it up from hanging over onto the thing beside it. So I'll probably end up with a row like that of each calabrese or brassica. So that's big bed 2. Let's have a look at the spuds. So the potatoes are taken over, which is a good thing. Really have a lot of growth going on in them. Pretty much just kept them watered, nothing else. And start to get some flowers on. Have a look at that. So the potatoes, so just before we look at them, it's on the right then we have the garden pea. They're really flying it. Some flowers on already, so we'd expect to get something from them. Second carrots there, Red Samurai. So starting to poke our head through again, growing in lines in the compost soil mix. Into the back, and we just have a quick look at these are what we call the lumpers, or the famine potatoes. So they are well and truly through and starting to get some, I think, flower heads full. They're doing well anyway, so we'll have a look at them. They'll obviously be out a bit later. And then beside that then, a bit dry, is the last of the carrots, which is not in the plastic bucket, it's in this sort of trough, a bit slower coming through. These are purple haze, and again in rows. More down here beside it, strawberry planter. Some fruit on, starting to bulk up, so hopefully they'll be red before we know it. Jumping on to the 2 small beds, or the salad beds. So we've had some success and some disasters with this. As you can see, growing well since the last update. The first small bed that we had to couldn't come again, lettuce. Really flying, probably too tight, but I'm just picking away at it, we're getting loads from it. We can replace that as we get in the end of it. Tinning from the outside in to give these spring onions a bit more space. On the left of that then there was rocket seed. Don't know why I just continually put too many seeds in, but I'm learning. I'm getting better each year. And then we went for the rows of lettuce then, which I've been tinning out all week and essentially getting down to the rough spacing for now. Let them go a bit bigger and then tin them out again. They're doing good. Pretty good germination. So that was like a mixed lettuce seed. And on the left then, a lot of Rossa. And this has been a disaster. This is this one here. So that's the lamb's lettuce. As you can see, 0% germination. And I've also, just as an experiment, put some in another tray just to see was it the ground, but I think it's obviously the packet of seed that I got, which wasn't cheap. It was one of the bigger names. So if you consider the one on the right for the rocket was from Lidl, I think it was 79 cent. The one that failed was 250 or 270. So it just shows you, it doesn't always mean if you buy the big names it's going to work. Moving on then, the companion planted corn. Relative to what I had last year, corn's doing great. As you can see, slightly bending over towards where obviously the most of the sun is during the day. And the crisscross of the lettuce, again, a lot of tinning out going on this week. But hopefully you get the idea I was coming up with, just to get those rows crossing in. Again, we had one failed row, but I've since put another sown a seed in there and they're starting to come through. You can see there. The reason why they failed is they were old seed. I probably shouldn't have even put them in. They were a couple of years out of date. So it does show you. I think you don't necessarily have to stick to the best before dates on seed, but be realistic as well when you look at the dates. So they will fill out, and again I think hopefully the corn will keep going at that rate. So the brassicas are continuing at the pace that they started at. Really delighted with them. Really should be starting to see some heads on them, for instance at the calabrese. We'll just walk through, have a look at the fruit bushes while we're there. So the two fruit bushes continuing as they were last time round. Loads of flowers on the blackberry, and the raspberries are all after forming fruit, so once they're not attacked by anything, you probably have to put a bit of netting over them soon, or it doesn't get too wet. We should get a fairly decent harvest off then, considering it did start with one cane. We've got a couple of suckers on it now, but I'm just going to leave them. Walking over then, so in the bed, the back bed, the cauliflower usually comes a bit later. Calabrese, so as you can see, just noticed that myself now, it's starting to come through nicely. Small head forming in it, expecting good things from that. When I built this cage I thought I was being unrealistic, but thankfully I did put it in the height that it is, because they're going to fill it and probably push it up. And then the cabbages, you can see there's three varieties, and it's pretty obvious even when you look at them, the tree, how they're heading up is different. Fairly tight one there, I think it's like a York, traditional. I haven't got the names to hand. I've been an infestation of these, what we used to call helicopters when we were kids. They're seed from a maple tree which hangs over the garden from next door. Absolutely hundreds of them, and doing my best to get them out, but as you can see they're everywhere. As far as I remember, they only actually fell near the end of the season last year when everything was finished. For some reason this year they've decided to fall as everything is grown, so you have to watch, because they can fall as the seeds come up, say in the lettuce, and just pick them off. But I'm fighting a losing battle trying to keep them off the bark. And just in case you're wondering, that's what one of them can turn into. That's about, I think that's 2 seasons ago I found one of them grown in one of the beds, and I just put it in a small pot. So when you're not on top of them, you'll have a lot of maples growing in your garden, taking over. And they do grow well. Let's say I picked at least 300 or 400 out of the bed that had actually formed a small plant. So it just comes with the territory in this space. I think I'm not going to get rid of that tree. Not much I can do. The net does serve a purpose and keeps them actually out of falling into the heads, but that's the way it goes. Thanks to everyone for the comments, looking at the videos, enjoying looking at everyone else's videos and learning from everybody. Having a bit of communication with a few people, learning from each other, so thanks again. Chat to you soon. Slán.